Welcome to another episode of the Real Mentors Podcast. I'm your host, Sean Martin. And as always, REAL stands for Real Examples Altering Lives. Today, I'm honored and privileged to have in our new remote studio, a native of New York City. I was joking with him. He's kind of a big deal when I started researching him. I've heard the name for years. Today in studio, we've got Chef Kelvin Fernandez. And I usually don't go through bios, so try not to feel uncomfortable here. But being that you're one of ours, we're going to claim you and claim you proudly, my friend.
I appreciate that.
First of all, he's Dominican, so we love that. Born and raised in New York City, Harlem, 140th area. This guy found cooking in high school. I think it was just out of a bet or something.
My high school sweetheart at the time, I was into sports and food. Those are my two passions. And my high school girlfriend at the time, she was a cheerleader. And she's like, when are you going to support me into something that I like? So I want you to do cooking. I was like, cooking's for girls. Get the fuck out of here. I'm not doing that.
In true Dominican machismo fashion.
And now I got aprons that match my sneakers. So.
Holy shit. So, that's to start it out. And the reason I want to stop, you're in the full scholarship to the Culinary Institute of America at the age of 16. You became the youngest executive chef in New York City history at age 22. Food Network's Beat Bobby Flay with a Latin dish, no less. Chopped, winner on Man vs. Child, private chef to celebrities of celebrities, and named Forbes 30 under 30 for his culinary achievements. So again, warm welcome to our guest today, Mr. Chef Kelvin Fernandez,
Sean,
my brother.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an absolute pleasure. I know we've been chatting for a while.
Yes, sir.
All good things have to come, so we're here.
Yes. And it's been a long time coming, but everything happens in due time. Before we, got to meet each other today, I knew of you. I sat behind him at a performance of I Like It Like That, where his wife was performing. I had no idea who he was. I wish I'd have known you then.
I'm like, how cool was that, right?
Chopped it up. But again, this is how the universe works, right? Started to put us in closer and closer proximity. And to give my man Flo credit, he also said I should have you on the show a year ago.
Yeah.
So here we are. Tell us a little bit about growing up in New York, because that's not the easiest place to grow up.
Well, we're going to start with talking about growing up in New York in the projects, right? Like
Yes,
I'm born and raised, the best thing about my parents, I come from two Dominican immigrant parents who came to the United States to make sure that their kids had a great life, and most importantly, I didn't know I was poor. I didn't know I was poor until later on in life. I guess when I was, 12 years old, when in school we were learning about what food stamps were. And I'm like, food stamps? That don't look like, oh shit, that's what I was using to go buy milk or to go buy eggs or what my mom was giving money. That was money. It had a number on it. To me, when I was 6 or 7, back in the day, it was easy to still be like, here, go get a bag of chips or go get some milk or whatever you needed in the house, because it was literally downstairs. We always had the supermarket. But growing up in Harlem, it wasn't the Harlem that it is now.
Right.
We didn't have Starbucks, Whole Foods, restaurants. We had, the hood. And there's two things that can come out of living there. It's either you're going the left route or you're going the right route, and I noticed that because my friend group at the time, everyone is still in the same place 20 years later, rather than finding a way to get out or bring your family out or change for positive vibes, So
what was the thing that allowed you to go right, so to speak?
I think having great parents, and I'll be honest that my parents, they worked their asses off. My mom had 2 jobs, always in hospitality. I come from a hospitality family. My dad's been a chef his entire life, not an executive chef level, but my man knows how to cook everything. He's been 30 years with the same business. Also helps me out with my private events whenever I need him. And
nice.
It's me creating those core memories now, because I remember when I was young, telling my dad I like to cook. Show me something. He's like, get out of the kitchen.
And he used to cook.
Oh, he cooked all the time. I got blessed with 2 great cooks in the house. My mom, she was a hotel maid at the time. Now she's the director of housekeeping for a big residential hotel in Manhattan. So hospitality was always in the family, in the blood. And my dad cooked great. My mom cooked great. But when I started showing interest in cooking, I wanted to learn from my pops. And he didn't want to teach me. It's not that he didn't want me to do this. He just knew the sacrifice that it took if I really wanted to become something great. I always joke around and say that my dad didn't approve of this until I started making more money than him.
Yeah, that's usually how it works, though.
And that was pretty quick in my head.
Yeah, well, 15. So let's tell the story. You take this class out of a kind of chasing a female.
Yeah, chasing my girlfriend at the time. I was into sports. I did wrestling, baseball, football. I wasn't phenomenal in all of them, but I was really good. In wrestling, I was sensational. Got a chance to win our city championship at 145 pounds.
Holy shit.
We went on a nice little tear on our senior year, but I had to make a decision. It was either focus on what's after high school, right? I knew that if I went and got this wrestling scholarship, what am I going to do after college? My passion is not to be a wrestling coach or to see other people succeed in that field. I knew that I wanted to do more. So I had an opportunity and I did a cooking class in high school, and I ended up winning a full scholarship to the Culinary Institute of America, which is considered one of the #1 schools for culinary in America, if not in the world. And at the time, it was one of the only schools that you can actually get a certificate and a degree. So I got a degree in culinary arts and business management. So I'm like, shit, if they're giving me $40,000 to go to school, I must be doing something right.
Yeah.
But I still remember the first time I made something with my hands, and I gave it to one of my boys who was a wrestler and a football player. And he's like, you made this? I was like, yeah. He's like, from scratch? I'm like, yeah. He's like, nah, it didn't come from a box, because, you know, any type of cooking came from a box, right? I wasn't measuring anything back then, you know, until I started learning. So finding the joy that it gave me, making something with my own hands and giving it to someone that I cared about, and seeing their smile, that is what I got off on.
That's beautiful, because I think something just clicked for you, obviously, because you were naturally inclined. But I want to tie the sports into the cooking.
Yeah.
You were a standout wrestler, obviously. And how do those skills, how do those disciplines translate to the kitchen?
You said the key word, discipline. To be successful in anything in life, you have to be disciplined. And what I try to tell everyone that's coming up or wanting to start a successful career young, you have to be willing to sacrifice. If you don't sacrifice your life, and it sounds dramatic and it sounds out of this world, but if you don't sacrifice your life and put 100% in the beginning, you will not be successful. And I say that because at 15 years old, here I am, instead of wanting to play baseball with my friends on the weekends or go to the movies and hang out at the arcade, I'm here studying, or I'm here working at a restaurant. As soon as I got working papers, my first job was in the kitchen. I worked at the restaurant called The Water's Edge in Long Island City, Queens.
Of course.
It was an incredible restaurant by the water, had a beautiful boat.
View, got the beautiful view of the bridge.
Was sensational, overlooking Manhattan. And that was my first job ever. And even when I went there, I still didn't know if I wanted to be a chef, right? I loved the hospitality business, but I went there as a busboy. I wanted to make money. Like, that was my mentality. I'm young. I don't want to ask mom and dad for money anymore. And the chef was like, no. He grabbed me. He was like, you're going to work with me. And I'm like, oh, shit.
What did he see?
At the time, I don't know. He saw a lot of fear, that's for sure. And I'm telling you, I'm so green. Like, I'm just listening to this guy. He's like, all right, open the oven and grab this. I'm literally going to grab something out of the oven with my bare hands. Like, that's how much I didn't know anything. And he's
I've done that dumb shit once or twice.
So when he did that, I felt stupid, but I was like, okay, I should pay attention a little bit more. But I was just so nervous. And I remember to this day, the first day that I got a really bad accident, I was about 16, same chef, same restaurant. It's a Saturday night, 600 covers. What is a 16-year-old doing in a restaurant that's doing 1,600 covers, let alone working a station with one more person who's in charge of the hot apps? But I remember that chef came in, he tasted an oyster, he tasted the soup. How come we only have one soup? That's not my responsibility, but he's yelling at everybody.
Right.
We need this. You chop onions, you chop this. He gave me the easiest job, chop herbs. It was thyme. Thyme, you should be picking it off the branch and then you chop it up. I was so nervous, I chopped like the top part of my thumb off. And I'll never forget what happened at that experience, because he told me I was ready to go home. It's Saturday night, 6 o'clock, 500, 600 covers happening, and I'm ready to go home. I'm bleeding profusely. I feel my heartbeat in my thumb. I'm getting, wrapped by everybody in the restaurant, and I'm ready to go home. And the chef says, are you gonna let 2% of your body affect the other 98? And I was stunned. I said, no, chef. And that was the first time I learned how important it is to be disciplined, to show up, to be able to turn things off and put 100% into something else.
Holy shit. No workers' comp on that one.
Oh, man, I can't even believe it. I don't think I've ever filed for workers' comp in my life.
Listen, if you were looking for a way out, you would have found one a long time ago.
Seriously, I was 15 years old, bro. I think it was the first time I cried in a while.
What was the name of that chef?
George Mazeroff, I'll never forget.
Shout out to George Mazeroff because that's what the show is all about.
He was more than just a chef. He was a mentor. He was a father figure. He was the reason why I won the cooking competition because once I told him I had the opportunity to do this cooking class, he's like, let's show you the right way. He showed me how to butcher the chicken in less than a minute. And then I was teaching the people back at Long Island City High School, this is how my chef showed me. And it was a new technique that they put into their curriculum. So George Mazeroff was an incredible chef. I'll never forget him because he gave me a lot of opportunities, but he also, he taught me a lot of things of what not to do as a chef as well. Because back then, there was a lot of verbal abuse in kitchens and a lot of vulgar language. I'm 15 years old getting called a Dominican handicap and I'm a birth defect. I'm a reject. I'm an accident. My mom didn't really want to have me. And I remember one time my dad wanted to work at the Water's Edge and they said no because if, he calls his son a verbal bad word and my dad's right there, I don't think my dad's going to do anything.
Well, just in case.
But just in case, I don't want him that close.
Right.
But George Mazeroff was an incredible man. I haven't seen him in a while, haven't heard from him in a while, but we always email back and forth.
Nice. Well, we hope he's doing well. And this is the impact that mentors make and impacts that they have on people's lives. He obviously saw something in you, took a chance on you. And then, wow, how powerful is that moment where you're ready to check out? And if you go home that night, I'm not going to say things would not be what they are today, but there's a good chance.
I agree. There was a good chance that things would be different at that moment because it taught me to be hungrier. It taught me to be stronger mentally and physically. I was never faced with anything like that. From that moment on, I learned to complain a lot less. So it was more of a yes, chef mentality. I'm going to do it and I'm going to give you my 100% best. I'm not going to lie. It was really hard to saute at that moment because my whole thumb was bandaged up, but we got through the night.
And you made it happen. And I think you learned one of the most valuable lessons, it sounds like, that you've ever learned.
Because I still remember it to this day. I was 15 years old.
I was just going to say that.
And still to this day, if I have an opportunity to tell someone, are you going to let 2% of that, your body affect the other 98? Because that's a line that I'm going to remember forever.
And the other moment is your teammate saying, did you make this yourself? And that's what people don't realize. It's like you were getting wins from early on.
Yeah.
Because you decided to take a chance on yourself in terms of signing up for the cooking class. And the reward wasn't huge. It was just, yo, this is good, bro. Who made this?
Something as simple as a wow, this is good. Thank you.
And how does that make you feel?
It opens up. Sometimes it's undescribable. And I'll say that because you get these butterflies, right? Like, especially when even now, 25 years later, when I'm cooking for someone, I'm always trying to see their first bite reaction, especially with the arepas. Like the arepas have become my signature dish, especially when you beat Bobby Flay on national television. People think I just have arepas in my pocket and I can just pull one out and be like, here you go,
He's
try
the arepa guy.
Yeah, but I'm so much more than arepa, but I have a lot to give to the arepa, So it's one of those undescribable feelings where still to this day, I don't get tired of tasting that arepa because as a chef, to create the perfect bite is not easy. Right. Your palate and everyone's palate is different. I also am very thankful that I change people's palates, like my wife's, my friends, my family's. I'll still remember the first time I cooked for my family and my dad was my biggest critic because he's been a chef for so many years. He's like, how dare you cook steak medium to this house when, everything has been well done.
Well done.
And I'll never forget the first time I tasted a perfectly cooked chicken for the first time. I raised my hand and I said, what bird is this? Because this is not chicken. I've never tasted chicken like this.
Now, what's the perfect chicken?
The perfect chicken is crispy on the outside and moist and juicy on the inside. And I have a dish on my menu that you can order that's cooked, the perfectly roasted chicken. It takes 12 to 13 minutes to cook. It's a chicken breast with the skin on, and it shouldn't be cooked more than that. And the most important thing is literally when you're cooking proteins, you have to rest your meat. And that's something you hear all the time, whether it's bringing something out for the refrigerator, especially if it's a thick cut ribeye or a tomahawk steak, you got to let it rest a little bit because it is going to affect the quality at the end. But a perfectly roasted chicken, skin on, salt and pepper. You have some rosemary, thyme, garlic, hot pan, a little bit of olive oil. You see the smoke, skin side down. You don't touch it. You leave it alone for 2 minutes. You look at the crust. It's starting to get nice GBD, we call it, golden brown and delicious. Flip it over. You throw your butter. You throw that thyme, that garlic, that rosemary. You baste it. Throw it in the oven.
I'm getting hungry,
4
bro.
minutes.
Take it easy. I haven't eaten.
4 minutes, 400 degrees. Let it out. Let it rest in that pan, and you have the perfectly roasted chicken.
My wife is going to find this episode in her inbox on a daily basis because she's not much of a cook outside of breakfast. And whatever. I mean, I don't know.
I got some YouTube videos still.
Yeah,
I haven't done it in a while,
what?
but there's some 30 recipes I have up there.
I think it would be fun too, because my daughter and my son both, they're 8 and 3, and we let them cook the eggs in the morning sometimes. And I don't know that people frown upon it. I don't give a fuck. I mean, we were doing that when we were kids.
Yeah.
We were making our own food.
I wasn't allowed to crack any eggs because I would always drop them on the floor.
Correct. And then not even that, they'll break them over the stove and then they start cooking. Yeah. So, I mean, let's go from Culinary Institute to Beat Bobby Flay. How old are you at Beat Bobby Flay? Because correct me if I'm wrong, that's what really
the first time. The first time Beat Bobby Flay, I was the actual pilot for the show. I was 24 years old, and I'll never forget it because I just finished filming Chopped. I did really good. Chopped was the first show I did. It was in 2011. Finished as a runner-up. The show, I'm allergic to shellfish, but I got shellfish in 2 rounds. So imagine making it to the finals without being able to taste your food because round 1 I got oysters and round 2 I got shrimp. And although I didn't win that day, even though I felt I won, I cooked my heart out. I was 20 years younger than my competitor. She was Madrid's best female chef coming to the United States to become known. And I felt like I won already because even she said, I'm going up against Kelvin, who can't taste his food, but made it to the finals. That's talent. And I was like, I've already won. So after Chopped, I got the call. I became friends with a few casting directors and producers, and they loved my personality. And this is from me coming a long way. I used to be scared to talk in front of 5 people, let alone be in front of a camera. And that took a long time to get to there. I'm talking about as simple as describing my specials to my servers. I couldn't even do that. They're like, Kelvin, calm down. I was never good at public speaking, but you see me now and I'm giving graduation speeches. I'm talking and
we talked on the phone yesterday. He's like, bro, you're gonna have to stop me sometimes because I love to talk.
Now it's at that point where I just love being able to inspire. Right. You know, so going back to Beat Bobby Flay the first time, I didn't get to choose my dish. They gave me options though. They said, do you want to make a lasagna, a pasta carbonara, or something else? I couldn't remember at the time. I was like, all right, I can't really reinvent the lasagna, but let's do pasta carbonara. And the reason the show didn't air, although I won, if you see my pilot and the way the Beat Bobby Flay show is now is 2 different concepts. Bobby in the beginning of the show, they knew he knew the dish. So he was in the back practicing while I am competing with 2 other people to see who was gonna go against him. And you don't want Bobby to know what your signature dish is. You don't want him to have a slight idea because he's a talented chef. And the reason he wins all the time is because he's talented. And also the reason we as chefs lose is 1, we get nervous. 2, we try to do something that's too outside of the box. If I'm gonna do arroz con pollo, it better be arroz con pollo. Because Bobby beat someone against arroz con pollo and I was just dumbfounding. But they didn't do arroz con pollo as the Puerto Rican.
Quinoa and chicken
nuggets.
I
mean, they put probably like duck breast in it. And I was like, that's not arroz con pollo. So what's happening there? But my life changed. And at that moment, I was 24. I called my mom and I was in tears. I was like, I just beat Bobby Flay. This is gonna catapult my career. Long story short, the episode never airs. I'm 2 years in and I'm like, all right, what else am I gonna do? I go to a food and wine event in New York City and I see Bobby Flay and I'm like, here's my chance. I just walk up to the gentleman. He's tall, tap him on his shoulder. He turns around and he goes, you were great. We're gonna bring you back on. And I was like, I have nothing else to say. I just wanna shake your hand. Here's my card. I'd love to compete against you again. He kept his word. His team emailed me, got me on the show 6 months later. And this time I got to pick my dish. And at the time I was working at a Latin restaurant and I created the arepas. And the arepa is traditionally a Colombian or Venezuelan dish. Right. But the best thing about being a chef is you can take those same ingredients and make them your own. So when I did win the show, there was a lot of comments. They're like, congratulations on the win, very impressive, but that's not an arepa. I'm like, it is an arepa. It's the same ingredients that you use. I just made it different.
Right.
So still a corn base, We top it off with a French-style braised beef short rib that takes 3.5 hours to cook, low and slow. Guacamole, pico de gallo, some cotija cheese, a lime-scented sour cream. And when I mean you take that in one bite, it's a party in your mouth because your palate is experiencing things that it's not supposed to at the same time. Sweet, salty, hot, cold, herbaceous, acidic, meaty. It's just like, what did I just taste? Give me more. Right. So since then, we've developed about 8 more arepas. I did the Forbes 30 Under 30 in 2015 was the same year that the Bobby Flay show aired. I was working at La Marina. And La Marina was a vibe, man. One of the hardest, most funnest jobs I ever had in my life.
What was your role there?
I was the executive chef.
Okay.
And I mean, team of 40 chefs. I had 5 sous chefs that we were communicating through a walkie-talkie and a headset. I never did anything that big. Before that, I was running hotels and restaurants and 200-seat restaurants, not a 70,000, 100,000 square foot operation where I had 5 kitchens and 5 chefs. But
Marina had 5 kitchens?
5 kitchens. We did the beach kitchen.
Right.
We did our kitchen. We did the lounge. We did the party and catering rent. And then we had food trucks that were catering to the lounge that we were in charge of as well.
How did that feel? How long were you there?
I was there for 2 summers. So
as a Dominican, you didn't grow up in the Heights per se, but be at that legendary spot.
The community, I mean, the only reason I went was Fernando Mateo. Like that man was a genius at his time when he was creating restaurants. And it took me a lot to leave Fifth Avenue. I was coming from New York City, Manhattan, youngest executive chef in New York City. And
you're going back to the hood.
I mean, I'm going back to the hood. That was my mentality. I'm like, what am I going to do? But I manifested it myself. I remember I was hanging out with a bunch of friends at La Marina on the beach, watching French Montana. I'm looking at the food that's coming out of that kitchen at the beach. And I'm like, man, I wonder what it would be to be a chef here. And Fernando reached out. And I always joke about this because I don't know if he planned it, but back then I didn't have a car. I was living in Queens, was traveling on the train. It took an hour and a half to get uptown. I was like, shit, this is going to be a commute and a half. But the moment I walked out the train, when I was going to walk to see Fernando and his partners for a meeting, there was a gentleman at the top of the stairs. And they said, Chef Kelvin, welcome to Uptown. We've been waiting for you. And I'm like, how do you know? But that felt like this is a way to start a conversation. This is a way to start an interview.
He was recruiting you.
He was smart.
And he did a damn good job.
They did a hell of a job because still to this day, I remember that, and I remember what type of impact you want to leave on someone for you to be remembered, Long story short, 2015, like I said, Forbes 30 Under 30. We created 5 different arepas for each different judge that was going to be at this event. Because every year when you win there's only 30 people selected to win Forbes 30 Under 30 for each category. Right. So my category was food and wine. And I just made it because it was January of the year of 2015. I was 29. I was going to turn 30 in July. So I just made the cut. And every year there's a food competition that Forbes holds for everyone that was nominated. And let's see who best chef in America is. 2015, I finished as a runner-up. 2016, 2017, 2018, and 2019, I won Best Chef in America with Forbes in their food and wine competition. So at that point, everyone's like, how are you at this event? You're not 30 anymore. I was like, well, I'm gonna keep coming back to some of these young kids beat me. So, nice. And then unfortunately COVID happened and there were no more competitions after that. But it was a long struggle, but it was so much fun in the process after that.
What kept you coming back? Like, what's your motivation outside of the love?
Competition. I fell in love with competition as well, because think about that. When I became the youngest executive chef at 22, that was almost unheard of. And then a couple years later, a gentleman by the name of Chef Flynn, there was a whole documentary out on Netflix on him. He became the youngest executive chef and he was like 17. And I'm like, who? I remember feeling the hate when I opened up this newspaper in the New York Times, which is, every Wednesday in the New York Times is an incredible dining section where you get to learn of who's who and what's going on, any chefs moving, any ratings. And I'm like, who's this 18-year-old kid? He's not no chef. He's never been trained because at the time he
saying the same shit they were saying about you.
Me, exactly. But for the first time, I was able to understand. Once I read his story, I was like, oh wow, this guy is a chef. Yes, he didn't go to culinary school, but he taught himself and he literally volunteered and worked at some of the best restaurants and where he was living and started holding pop-ups. And I'm like, yo, this kid is so inspiring, that to the point where I was like, I'm proud of him and I don't know him, because it took me a long time to understand when someone I didn't meet would tell me that they're proud of me until I had that experience for the first time and I understood what that meant. So Chef Flynn, he deserves all his flowers. And I actually went to one of his restaurants when he opened up a couple of years ago. It was great food, great food.
We talked about COVID because it's interesting. I don't know that I would call him a protege, but somebody that's a colleague of yours who's on the show, Jose, Trill Cooker, shout out.
Chef
Trill.
Jose, my man, my brother.
Spoke extremely highly of you, but how I kind of got introduced to Trill other than his at-home dining experience, I forget what it's called, the Chef's Kitchen. Chef's Kitchen over there in Soundview, I believe, or Pelham Bay. And that was a wonderful experience, but then COVID hit, right? I'll tell my COVID story, and then we'll move on. And I was telling him, I was turning 42, so it's June. We had lockdowns from like April, March, whatever. So we're a few months of like Zoom calls. Nobody knew what Zoom was. Everybody's like having a party on a Monday because there's no work. And might as well go to the liquor store because it's essential, right?
That's all we
and
did.
This is back when I'm still drinking. So we decided to throw this party. Governor Cuomo can't get us now. Statute of limitations. There was more than 12 people. So we do this big party for my 42nd birthday and we have this 6-course meal and absolutely slays it. But it turned into a shit show because people were let out the fucking cage for the first time in 3 months. Everybody drank too much. It was a mess. It was just a complete mess. But we had a blast.
But a memorable mess.
A memorable mess. And I think that ingratiated and kind of strengthened the relationship that I had with Jose. So when I started this podcast about a year ago, I bet it was probably the same timing that we shot with Jose. And here we are full circle. Who are some of the people that you have been able to lift up? Because you just spoke about that graduation of awareness from, okay, I'm not the shit. Now I'm mature enough to give flowers to somebody who I don't even know and say, I'm proud of you, because instead of looking at that competitive side of you that wants to win, which is always there, you're now looking at it with grace. Like, yo, I can't imagine what this dude had to go through to get here.
You know what?
Self-taught.
The hardest part about the business is the gatekeeping. And I wish, and I say this all the time to my team, to my friends, to all my chef friends, I wish I had a boss like me. I wish I had a mentor like me. I wish I had someone who would open the doors the way I'm opening doors for everyone behind me. And the way I see it is, you got Chef Trill. Chef Jose is an incredible, and I wouldn't even say he's my protege because he was talented before he met me, I know on the podcast that you had him, he explained how we met at a cooking competition, and I was like, serve me a big pile of humble pie. And, at that point, you need that sometimes in your life, because if you keep winning, your ego's going to get there. And I'm glad that I'm not someone that has such a big head, or back then I did. Back then, there's articles being written about me. I got fucking plaques with my face on the New York Post, and I'm young and I'm driving a nice car, and I'm there's accolades about me. You can Google. How many people at 22 you Google me? Like,
right. Well, now, but back then it wasn't a thing.
It wasn't a thing. So beating chefs like Jose, one of the best, just to throw off topic real quick, one of the best things that me and Chef Jose did at La Marina, he was my executive sous chef, and we did a thing called Tasting Tuesdays, where we had people from Instagram, because this is where you use your social media. I had a good following at the time, about 50,000. And we would post like, hey, come in for a Top Chef style dinner. So people would pay, and it was cheap. It was $50.
Right.
Come in, 4 courses, and you wouldn't even know what you're gonna eat until you get there. So me and Trill would come create these menus together, and we decided that every time we do a Tasting Tuesday, we're gonna throw something crazy in there, whether it's foie gras, whether it's truffles,
some
whether
shit
it's
our people would have
quail,
never
whether it's squab,
came across.
Something that nobody, let alone people uptown, are gonna understand what they are. And we had the times of our lives. That Tasting Tuesday, I'll still remember this day. And then that's what created his Breaking Bread series and doing the chef's table at home. And but La Marina created an incredible core group. We had chefs that would come into the interviews, and remember, La Marina is only a summer gig, right? The only person that was employed full-time was me and probably one other chef. And I had chefs come in on interviews, and they're like, I'm gonna give a leave of absence at my job just because I wanna work for you. Or I'm gonna quit my job, work the 4 months, and then hopefully you can help me find something else after.
Like an internship.
Like
almost.
an internship, yeah. But people were like executive chefs of restaurants. Chef Andy was an executive chef at a restaurant, and he worked on the weekends with us.
No way.
Chef Elio and he's a Dominican guy. He came and bought coquito from me at La Marina, and he's like, one day I'm gonna work for you. And he kept his promise. And I mean, La Marina crew, Chef Alex, Chef David, Andy, Elio, Jose was in charge with everything with me. If it wasn't for that, we wouldn't have had the chef core group that we have now. I'm grateful enough that I have a text group that if I can't do a gig, I'm like, hey, chefs, who's available? 20 people, Hamptons.
Right.
And then
you talked about gatekeeping, right? So is that something that you faced head on as a Latino, as a Dominican, as a young person? What caused you to feel to eliminate that barrier?
I felt like even young, when I became the chef at 22, that's unheard of. People were becoming chefs in their 30s, right? So even when I had the opportunity, I was afraid. I was like, I can't be a chef at 22. I won't know all the answers. But the gentleman who was giving me the job, and he was like, dummy, you're gonna know all the answers because it's gonna be your food. And then once the light bulb went off, I was like, all right, I could do this. It was challenging. But after that, I tried going to get an executive chef job in the city. That was not happening. What I kept hearing was, I can't believe this food is being cooked by this kid. Everyone saw me as a kid. So my age held me back a lot. And then, I learned that I had to take a couple steps back to move forward. And that's when I got the job at the Strand Hotel, where I gave 7 years of my life. It was the first time where I did breakfast, lunch, dinner, room service, rooftop, catering, everything out of one tiny kitchen. And I had to learn how to do my own pastries and things like that. And then that was gate kept from me for a while because I had to work under someone who I felt wasn't talented enough at the time, but had the credentials, right? So 10 months later, I stayed there. I gave my notice and they were like, no, you're not going nowhere. They're like, what do you want? I'm like, I need to show my talent and I can't here. I ended up getting promoted. I'm like, I'm not trying to fire anyone, but I ended up getting promoted to an executive chef. And from that moment on, we had the best reviews ever. We had my first opportunity of doing corporate chefing when they were sending me to other hotels to do my menu and teaching other people how to do my food. And then the gatekeeping of the personal chef life is a whole different ballgame because nobody wants to give up their clients. After La Marina, I had the opportunity to take a big change and do personal chefing for a while. And my first client was Jose Reyes from the New York Mets. Dominican, I mean, one of the most fun guys I've ever had to work with, and it wasn't work. It was like literally a family. I seen his kids grow up. And then as I got later on, I was with Jose for about 3 years. I needed a change. I got the opportunity through social media to work for my biggest client. And that was Jennifer Lopez at the time. And again, I didn't know who I was working with until I showed up. Because there was a girl on Instagram. She is incredible. One of my best friends now, her name is Juval. She was Jennifer's personal assistant for a long time. And she just went into my DM and she was like, do you do personal clients? I'm like, yeah. She's like, I want you to cook for my client, JL. In my mind, JL could be John Luizos, Jason Lopez, or Jennifer freaking Lopez.
Holy shit.
And I walk in and I remember my trial. I was so nervous. I was like a little kid in high school again. And I was the quietest I've ever been in my life. Just because I was nervous. But my food stood out. And I remember Juval was like, hey, you take her the flan. I was like, I'm not taking her the flan. I'm like, it's fashion week and she's got makeup everywhere, the whole glam team. And I already know the glam team hates seeing a chef come with food when someone's trying to get hair and makeup done. I'm like, I'm not trying to bother no one. But I went and I just said, flan, and I put it on top of her flan. It's so much more than just a flan. But that's the only words that came out of my mouth. And then 7 years later, we still have an incredible relationship, and I get called every time she comes to New York. And
very cool.
It was one of the coolest experiences. But again, no one wanted to give up the celebrity clients in New York. It was one of a thing where they would rather lose the gig than give it to someone else
who can outshine them.
Yeah.
I think that translates to life.
Yeah.
I don't think that's necessarily obviously it's not just a cooking or a chef thing. That's a life thing.
Yeah.
People are threatened by someone. All right. So people want to see you do good, just not better than them.
100%. And I always say, don't give anyone an opportunity to take your job. There's always someone hungrier. There's always someone that's going to outwork you. There's always someone that's going to, especially in the beginning, but there's a lot of people that just get complacent, And I felt like I took someone's job when I went to cook for the first time for Thanksgiving at the Lopez residence. And I'll never forget the words because her mom comes out and she sees the spread and she says, wow, we should have had this guy the whole week because I was only doing the weekend because their chef at the time couldn't do Thanksgiving weekend. So here I go, have my opportunity. And from that moment on, I became the full-time chef. At then, I only had one kid at the time. My son lived in LA. It was perfect because I was traveling a lot to California. And then I didn't have a girlfriend or a wife like I do now, or a family that was holding me back. So I was living my best life, traveling with the family, Miami, New York, vacations. It was a beautiful life until I wanted to start my own life.
Right.
That's what took the biggest change, where I just decided, and I was grateful for people like Chef Jose, who was on my team working with the family, where, I wanted to make it seem like I wasn't available, but in reality, I knew I wanted to hand it off to him.
Right.
Because not everyone's going to be ready for an opportunity like that, especially when I say, hey, it was going from 2 of us to 1 of us. And that was all part of COVID. Right. After COVID, it's like, hey, we don't want 2 chefs anymore. We don't want 4 nannies anymore. Right. We don't want 8 production assistants anymore. Everything went down to like 1. So, and I would never give you an opportunity that I don't think you can handle, So not only Trill succeeded, he hit a home run.
Yeah.
And I was grateful because, like I said, if I had the opportunity for someone to give me like that, I know Jose would give me the same opportunity in return. So,
how do we get to that place is the age-old question, because collaboration, right? You want to go fast, go alone. You want to go far, go together.
Yeah.
And collaboration is an issue when someone still has a chip on their shoulder. So, obviously all these wins stacking up. We're talking over the course now, probably 10 years, 15, 10, 12 years. When was La Marina? What year?
La Marina was 2015.
2015. Okay.
Started 2014 for me, but when I got Trill and the entire team involved, that was 2015. So when I took over in 2014, I had to deal with all the employees that were still there because I came in midsummer.
And then you bring in your own chef next season, or your own staff next season.
Yeah, next season, because every year it's like a full, complete breakdown. But yeah, you'll still bring out some stars. But 2015 was like.
So you're getting all this experience, but all the while, you're an employee, correct?
Yeah.
For different people.
Correct.
So even now, you've got a great employer in Jennifer Lopez, the Jennifer Lopez, but she's still just an employer.
Correct.
Are you doing side gigs at this point?
Yeah.
Where does the shift happen? Where you want to go and do your own thing, like you said?
The shift happened when I decided I didn't want to do full time anymore with the Lopez family, and it's nothing against me. It's just at that point, now I have a fiance at the time. Now now she's my wife, and now we have a beautiful 3-year-old together. And I missed a lot on my big boy's life, where I didn't want to lose out on missing my new son's life as well. I wanted to make up because I know I wasn't the best father to my first boy. We have an incredible relationship, and I'm grateful for him, and we love each other very much. And I was grateful for working for Jennifer because a lot of the gigs were in California, and it gave me an opportunity to be out there more with him.
Would you say that strengthened the relationship just a tad? The
seeing each other a little bit more, of course. But I was still always out there every 2 months, in LA, whether I was working for Jennifer or not. Actually, sometimes, the schedule was a little bit harder because when you're working for a family, sometimes you're there for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And dinner might be until 9 o'clock, depending on what's going on. And I might not be able to go run and see my son an hour and a half away, especially with that LA traffic. But I think what happened was I just decided that I wanted changes in my life. I wanted to build my family. So I started slowly separating from all of my clients. I wasn't doing anyone full time. That was the first time that I decided that I just wanted to be my own boss. I wanted to work for myself. I wanted to do the pop-up dinners. I wanted to do the collaboration dinners. I wanted to work with my wife, who's an incredible singer. And now I can't do events that have entertainment if she's not singing, because her fans are my fans and my fans are her fans. And then it just works out perfectly. But once you hear her sing, you'll understand why.
Well, that's the irony here is, well, I didn't meet your wife, but I saw your wife perform, not knowing it was your wife. I'm sitting behind you, not knowing the whole thing. And she stole the show. Yeah. I like it like that. We got to see at Lehman Center. And there was some heavy hitters in the show, but she came in and her 4 or 5 scenes, and she fucking stole the show. So we had a fun story off camera about how you guys met. And I don't know if you're willing to share that,
listen,
but
I love that.
I would love to.
It's one of the best stories that we can tell.
Is this after? No, this is during Jennifer, because that's when you made the decision, you said.
This is more towards the end, right?
Okay.
This is more towards when I gave Chef Trill the opportunity to take over full time, And I remember the conversation that me and Trill were driving to the Hamptons, and I'm having a hard time trying to give him the job without telling him that I don't want it anymore, because I don't ever want to say that either. But when you work for someone else, it could be anyone, you're sacrificing yourself as well. You're sacrificing your mind, your body, your soul, your family time, your personal life. And that was never a problem. But I wanted to build my life. And I knew that I couldn't give 100% to my client if I couldn't give 100% to myself. So finally, when I felt comfortable that I'm not leaving the family without anyone, they got the next best thing, which was Chef Trill. So at this point, I was already doing a bunch of events, and that was a little hard too, because you went from not having restaurants at the time for me, not having any personal clients, to now I need everyone to start booking me again, right? So what I ended up doing was I went to a bunch of friends' houses, and I'm like, hey, I'm gonna cook dinner for you tonight. All I need you to do is post on your Instagram, I'll repost, and I'll let everyone know that this is how I'm handling my business from now on. We'll still do pop-ups here and there, but it worked. It was a big thing to a point where we were doing dinners for 2, dinners for 10, dinners for 20, to the point where we got so busy where we couldn't even do anything smaller than 10. Right. And then I was lucky enough to get to an event where my crush at the time, who was my wife now, she was traveling the world with Romeo Santos, right? She was singing female background vocals for Romeo Santos. And I'm flirting with her, but she's not getting the hint. Finally.
Don't you hate when that happens?
Whatever. According to her, I wasn't flirting hard enough, I guess. And I get to see her at one of these events. It was the third event of the night. I don't get overwhelmed often, but when there's too many beautiful people in one room, I get a little overwhelmed. It was my third event of the night, and I look at my sous chef, Chef Alex, and I'm like, in and out. Like, that's cold word.
What do you mean beautiful people?
I mean, the women were dolled up. There was hair and makeup. It's an all-women event. They're all in lingerie. So the host turned her house into the ultimate spa day for her guests. And I was the food. Me and Chef Alex, we were the food.
You were the food, huh?
We were the food. We were the finale, right? So I walked in and I'm looking at everybody and I'm like looking around and I'm like, Alex, in and out. That's code word for like, do the food, keep your head down. Dude, super distracting. Keep your head down, focus, and let's get out of here. So I do the food. Food is great. I hear Chachi singing happy birthday. She was in the kitchen hanging out with the girl who, with the woman who donated the nails, Kiana, which is amazing. They were friends for a long time. And, but me and Chachi didn't talk much that day. Again, I was overwhelmed. The next day I go back on Instagram. I do what I normally do. I teach people how to cook recipes. And apparently she was online and she's taking notes and she's like, fuck it. She writes, marry me. I don't see that because I'm too busy teaching people how to do my ribeye with chimichurri sauce. But a girl that I was dating at the time saw it. So she sent the screenshot to me on the DM and I was like, damn, you shouldn't have done that. So I sent that same screenshot to Chachi and I'm like, don't flirt with me because you're hungry. And I was like, I got too many people doing that. And she's like, no, I think we'd be great together. So she shot her shot. We went on a date. And I know she was the one because we went on a date on the coldest day in January and snowstorm. And I was like, if this date didn't happen, she was going to leave for 3 months on tour. So we had the date and we had an incredible time. And now we're married. We have a beautiful home. We have a beautiful soon to be 4-year-old. And that's a story that we keep telling to smile over and over.
That is a very, very, very cool
shot her shot,
story.
and I love it.
Yeah, mine did too.
I love that.
It's funny because you're like, I guess it was your crush, but like you didn't make a move.
I was too
same
nervous,
shit with my wife. I didn't make a move, and when she was leaving her job, she made the move. And I'm eternally grateful, obviously.
Same.
I always joke she trapped me off, but it's all right. It's the best trap off I've ever had.
Listen,
love you, baby.
The most important thing, one of the best decisions or most important decisions in your life is your partner.
Yeah.
And I have the best partner who I feel sometimes I don't deserve. I'm like, she is incredible in so many ways, not just talented, but she's an incredible mother. She is an incredible friend. And she makes me a better man. So I'm super grateful for her.
That is awesome. I can't imagine that there's going to be a better compliment received when she sees this one. So that's beautiful. Now, Where do you, I guess, draw from in terms of inspiration for your home life? Like, who do you look to? Who do you surround yourself with? You know, you talked about coming up with a hardworking mom and dad. You know, there were brothers and sisters, and then I guess you had a baby mama situation when you were young and you didn't get to raise your oldest.
Yeah.
But this is way different. My previous guest has a similar situation where his daughter was like seeing how he plays with his younger daughter. And was like, Dad, how come you didn't play with me like that? And it actually became his first episode of his podcast.
Wow.
Because it was such a heavy subject. And, you know, how old were you when your son was born? Oof. The oldest?
23, 24.
Yeah. On top of the world.
I was a baby, yeah.
A baby, but a baby on top of the world.
No, 22. Yeah. 22, 23, yeah.
With all the things that you were going through, who are some of the people you look to now, or do you even do any of that consciously?
I don't think I do it consciously. You know, I was just surrounded by a lot of great father figures. You know what I mean? I think I had a great father. You know, my dad was different. You know, we didn't have the playing baseball together. We didn't have those type of memories, but I had a lot of other memories, which is why I say now I'm creating those core memories by us cooking together, because this is something that I wanted 20 years ago, you know? So now knowing that my dad is having more fun, and, you know, sometimes I don't know how proud he is of me until I hear other people speak, you know? Because my biggest thing was always wanting to make my parents proud. I knew I made my mom proud.
Right, because mom will always tell you.
Because, you know, I was always trying, and that's why I chose to be the good kid, right? Because I've seen other people go through hardships of raising teenagers. And back then, remember, we had no phones, barely had a beeper. And if you had a beeper, you were called a drug dealer, right? So I couldn't have a beeper, but, you know, I'm also not out late, but I saw my mom struggle a lot, you know? And my brother, I love my brother to death, but my brother was going through a rough patch and not coming home on time and seeing my mom cry. And now my mom and my brother have a great relationship, you know, something that I never thought would come to it. Just like I feel like I have an even better relationship with my father now, because we're creating those core memories of things that I wanted to do in the past. And
you're the one that's actually initiating it, which is the beauty, because I always say, like, your parents are Dominican immigrants. Guessing by the numbers, when did they come over? 60s, 70s?
70s. I would say 70s, yeah.
So after Trujillo, that's
70s.
when my family came over.
Because they were about 18, 19 when they came over.
Right, and you know, they come here for better life, and they do the best they can with what they have, but it's a very different culture in the DR than it is in the States. So these are things that we kind of learn and we assimilate, and we take information in from other people. That's why I ask, because the one thing I'm seeing, the one common trait of all the highly successful people, and I consider you to be highly successful in what you do, is that family structure. So I'm always curious to know how that converts to now how you intend to raise your family. Because I think they're the best teachers. I honestly think kids are your best teachers.
100%.
It forces you, and like you said to your wife, same thing, forces you to be a better person.
I think I find myself rushing home more. Right? Like even now, 5 years ago, I would have been taking clients in other cities and other states, not caring if I had to sleep in my own bed. Now I make those conscious decisions that if I can't go back home to sleep with my wife and my son, they need to come with me. Like those are the decisions that I make that affect, of course it affects the business, you know, there's always highs and low moments still for me, even in this point of my career. But that all comes down to the sacrifices that now, instead of the sacrifices of cooking all the time and sacrificing my time to become a better chef and showing up early and staying late. And now it's like, if I don't make a certain amount of money, I'm not leaving my family. I rather make memories with my family, and that is what gets me happy. And that is what keeps me going on a day-to-day basis.
Your time is more valuable now.
Absolutely. My time is more valuable. I find myself staying home more than just doing any old job. Yeah,
it's bugged out, because I'm the same way. And I appreciate your honesty, because we talked about it, and you know, things aren't always good. Like Absolutely. People know or assume that everything's good. Like paper, I look great, but
people assume I'm booked every single day.
Yeah.
I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not.
Well, I'm going to take you up on some of that because I have yet to taste your cooking, my brother. But I want to see what those hooplas are.
I'm like, if you stick around me long enough, I'll change your palate like I've done to everybody
Don't
around
threaten me with a good time.
Bro.
I used to weigh 350, bro.
God bless you, brother.
I can eat. Trust
the other
me.
day, me and my wife were having one of our celebratory anniversary dinners or something. We were celebrating something. And she looked at me and she's like, bougie ass palates. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, as we're eating caviar and fucking, I'm like, listen, it wasn't like this 5 years ago, right? But it took a while to have you understand complexity and what's good and what's not. Because I would have gone to restaurants before I knew about food and I'm like, oh, it's good, it's good. Now it's like, oh man, that's not even seasoned, bro. Like not even an ounce of salt or damn, like, can you just brown it properly? Or
let's talk about Latino restaurants, right? I haven't had the privilege of eating, out of your kitchen. But I've been to plenty of Latin restaurants. I've been to plenty of very high-end restaurants all over the country and, sometimes the world. And the one thing that I say about, unfortunately, our Latin food is the service is terrible.
Service is always too homey, too friendly,
too like whatever.
Not professional. It's not professional. Yeah.
And you gotta for the check or you gotta wave them down. They
There's
forget
times
to
where
check
I've
on
gotten
you.
my own water pitcher and poured my own water because it's been taking too long.
Just to be that guy, be like.
I mean, I waited long enough.
How can someone who's been in hospitality and literally is genetically inclined to be in this space, how can we improve that as entrepreneurs in our own neighborhood so that we can then attract people from outside to have an authentic dining experience, but with the service that they've come to expect?
The problem is if you don't know what to look for, you're never going to look for it. There's times where I walk in a restaurant, I'm like, that light bulb's off. That's crooked. That plant is about to die if it's not watered. Like I'm looking at things that have nothing to do with food because I learned to do that. And I had a mentor teach me those things. Like to be a successful executive chef, you have to anticipate. To be successful in anything, you have to anticipate, right? The other day, one of my chefs, Alex, hits me up and he's working part-time for another company. And he's like, wow, I got to thank you for preparing me the way that you did. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, these people don't do prep lists. These people they're not organized. These people don't have garbage bowls on their station.
Winging it.
They're just getting by. I was like, well, my goal is to hope that you're as good as me, if not better than me. Like, if not, then I'm wasting my time with you, So if you're not trained, there's something as simple as called the sequence of service, like how someone is supposed to greet you the moment you walk through that door to the moment they say goodbye to you before you leave,
Which is the experience I get when I go to, let's just call it white upscale restaurants. You should never
be like, hey, give me this, hey, give me that. Yeah. Granted, there's might be a time where they're extra busy or they're overwhelmed or they're short-staffed and things like that happen. And the hardest part for me as a professional is that I can't turn off the clock of like, hey, I'm here to just have a good time. When I know inflation, prices to go out is not like it used to be. I feel like I go out with my son and my wife and it's automatically $200 and it's just, oh, we're not at a fine dining restaurant.
No.
Fine dining restaurant, it's $500 and I'm like, all right, this is a little intense right now. But if you want great food and you want a great experience, you're gonna have to pay for it. So the only advice that I can say is, we can never stop learning. We can never stop teaching and we can never stop growing. So
what do you think about this idea? I had a friend who had a restaurant and I told him, bro, why don't you take your staff down to a fine dining establishment in the city? The bill's probably going to be $2,000. Let them have the time of their life. Okay. Limit them to 1 or 2 drinks so they don't get saucy and not learn the lesson. But they will then know firsthand what it's like to be waited on by a professional.
That. And the best thing by you saying that, there's a restaurant that we go to in New York City. It's called Houston's. Or Hillstone.
Never been, but I've heard.
Hillstone in New York, and then in Jersey, it's called Houston's. Mm-hmm. And even my wife, when we go, they're like, do you notice that there's not just one server for the table? There's everybody doing everything. So if you're just randomly walking by, you see a dirty plate, you grab it. Yep. Someone doesn't have water, you grab a water pitcher, boom, you give them water. At one table, you have seen 5 to 6 people come to you and serve you in one way or another. That is what good service is all about. But again, that has to be taught. So that idea I love because my wife uses Hillstone and Houston's as a good advantage. They're like, why don't you bring someone here that you want to show what service you're looking for? And I'm like, this is exactly what I'm looking for.
What is it? Unreasonable hospitality or something like that. It's a book, entrepreneurs, but just going above
and beyond. I told my wife, perfect example. I told my wife there was a place it was a hookah lounge that I used to go to religiously back in Queens when I used to live there. Every time after my birthday, no matter if I had a birthday dinner with a bunch of friends, if I threw a boat party, we would always end up at this one spot. Because when I took a business client there and he wanted a passion fruit mojito, they didn't have passion fruit on their menu. But you know what he did? He went outside, he went to the bodega, he bought some passion fruit juice, and he made a passion fruit mojito. So when the drink comes, I'm like, I didn't know you had that on the menu. He's like, we don't. But for you, we'll make it. I will give you my loyalty.
And I'll be back and I'll tell every friend.
And I will tell everyone that this is the way it is. But not everyone understands that. Sometimes people don't want to go above and beyond because they feel like they need to be compensated for it.
I think you hit it on the head, and we're circling the conversation, but you have to be exposed to it. The only reason you are treating any place that you go to, whether you're Dominican or not, is because you've been trained alongside the best, regardless of color or race or where they came from.
One chef told me this day one. If you want to be a great chef, you surround yourself by great chefs. You want to be a shitty chef, you work with shitty chefs. Because you're going to pick up the habits. And it's not just in my business. It can be in any business. Right. You surround yourself by greatness, but by people that are better than you, that people that are going to teach you things, and people that are not going to hold you back. You will be more successful that way.
Yeah, I think that goes with friends.
Yeah.
There's a saying, if you're not losing friends, you're not making progress.
It's unfortunate, but that's the truth in life.
It is unfortunate. Switching gears, are you someone who, I guess, had a hard time letting go of people?
Yeah.
And you know, from the neighborhood, and just realize, listen, they don't have my best interests at heart.
You know, and it's always, I had the Queens crew, the Bronx crew, the Manhattan crew. I don't have a Jersey crew. I have my family.
Because you're not taking on any
The Jersey
new,
crew is my family. You
right.
know what I mean? I'm not taking, I have my chefs. My chefs will be there for life. You know what I mean? But there are people that, you know, that were hard to, I felt like I held on too long.
Yeah.
I tried too hard because the love that I had for them. Or one thing that you'll always find out with me, and you can speak to my circle about this, is if I have an opportunity to make money, I give it to my friends first. Like even with my own business. And that hurt me in a lot of ways where it wasn't in my best interest, where I'm giving you 30% of my business. I'm giving you 20% of my business. I'm not greedy. Let's just make the most money we can. But not everyone is going to work as hard as you.
Change the world, don't let it change you. So I know we just met, but never change that. Yeah. Because if you're letting people infiltrate who you are and you're allowing them to be like, well, fuck it. If they're going to do this to me, then I'm just not going to do this for anybody. Nah, that's for that person to live with. Yeah, it is hard. That's the hardest part of success, when you don't come from success or even seeing what success or health or peace looks like. You feel the need to hold on to people where you came from. You know, my personal story, doing these, I got these amazing plans for myself, for my family, for the world. And I realized not too long ago that I've got to let go of that I'm a kid from the projects in the Bronx thing. There's no disrespect to the fact that we lead like that, because we're so proud of it. But there's a power of language that says, I still believe that to some extent. And if I still believe that, then I still have the limitations that kid has. You know what I mean?
Also saying, and going along with what you're saying, is also giving too many chances, right?
Oh, yeah.
Too many chances to disappoint, too many chances to prove you wrong, too many chances to make you feel like they're not going above and beyond the way they should.
Right.
And, you know, sometimes I give too much responsibility. But I know they can handle it. Yeah. But they're not always.
They don't believe that they're enough. That's the one. Or they
don't want the responsibility, and that's okay too.
That's fair too.
There were times where I'm like, hey, if you don't want to do this, let me know. I know people that would die to be in this opportunity. You know?
They can't be honest with themselves or you.
Or me. I think
just be like, I'm not cut out.
Me.
Yeah, I'm not cut out for this. Listen, I thought this was a great idea. It's not. That takes courage.
I think one of the hardest things I had to learn was learning how to fire people, especially at a young age, because I was, you know, as a chef at 22, everyone above me was like 30 and 40, and they're like, who the fuck is this kid telling me what to do? And then once I cooked for them, then everybody shut up. They're like, oh, this guy's good. The food speaks for itself. But still, I give everybody an opportunity. I'm like, hey, I'm here to have fun. I'm here to lead. I'm here to learn. And I'm here to make these people money. That's my job. And if you're not here for it, the door's right there. Of course, people walked out. I'm not afraid of that. I'm not afraid to work the line. I'm not afraid to wash dishes. I'm not afraid to be a server if I have to, because I've learned to do it all, you know? And that only comes with being in the right opportunity and having a place to lead. but I learned from a lot of great leaders, you know, Chef Daniel Boulud, John George, Alfred Portali, George Mazarov. Like, those are the chefs that made me who I am, because they all taught me something special. And the best thing about the business that we're in is you can never learn everything. Even if you get tired of one cuisine, go learn another one. There's hundreds of thousands of different cuisines, of different styles of food. So that's the cool thing about the job that I have. It never feels like I'm working, because I love what I do.
Truly blessed and grateful to be in that position. That's a pretty special place to be. So I just want to say thank you again for coming on today. I want you to tell our audience where they can find out more about Chef Kelvin, where they can find more of those amazing recipes that I'm going to start looking into, and more importantly, how they're going to book or find you should they need a private event or anything of that nature.
No, absolutely. I'm Chef Kelvin, Kelvin, on all of my platforms. Usually everyone just sends a DM. There's an email, chefkelvin24@gmail.com, that my assistant helps me out with. That's how you know it was getting real at one point, where I used to get yelled at by my clients. They're like, I emailed you, you never responded. I'm like, you're right, I'm sorry. That was the moment where I knew that I needed an assistant. I'm actually working on a few different projects coming out for the next couple months, where we're doing pop-up events. Everything is promoted on our Instagram. And then hopefully by the beginning of next year, my first sports bar will be open in Jersey. We're opening up in Weehawken and Ironbound. It's going to be called The One Sports Bar and Lounge, 5,000 square feet. I haven't told anyone. This is the first time I'm telling anyone about it. 5,000 square feet, sports bar, lounge, and just incredible and great food.
Well, I cannot wait. I want the invite. I'll be there, and I'm going to talk offline to get the address for this upcoming dinner that you got that I saw. I know you don't want to share. We won't share it publicly, but I got to make some plans with babysitters. So we're going to find our way over there, and you get to meet the wife and all that good stuff. I'll get to meet yours. My brother, I just want to say thank you again for coming on, taking the time and inspiring, and continue to do what you do. I can't wait to see what the future holds. Thank you as always for tuning into the Real Mentors podcast. We'll have all of Chef Kelvin's information in the bio. As always, let's get it.